to see you, sir. Karibu sana. Steve Ogolla, constitutional lawyer, good to see you. Leo malala sana bwana, na wewe unakuanga gangari.
No, something happened.
Kulikuwa na mambo mahali. Nimeshangaa bwana wewe jamaa, unakuanga alarm, hata si wiki alarm wewe alarm.
Yeah.
So how's your week?
My week has been hectic, as I think we tried to communicate.
Kwanza ongera bwana, congratulations. You know this guy has finally opened a law firm.
Not finally. No.
Yeah, I knew you always
an office, a big office.
Yes,
a big
office.
office.
Office for now 6 years since I left ICJ Kenya.
Yeah.
But then I was shifting, so it was difficult.
I thought you were in a partnership. Am I Sambaratik?
That was a false start. It's like BBI.
Yeah, you went into a partnership with a political operative.
I know.
Nasikia pia baba alikuja ku bless the office.
Alikuwa anaenda ile nyingine nilikuwa naona
ilikuwa nini? There was a lot of pomp and ceremony when that law firm was. It was inaugurated.
At least it used to have lunch. I used to see people going to have lunch there.
The office was inaugurated.
Maongera bana. So it means finally we have a drink for Friday. So today's drink is on you. Today's drink is on you. Last week it was on Ekuru. So it's on you.
No, don't just say last. It has always been me.
So today's drink is on Steve Ogolla. So it looks like you're gonna have a good time this Friday.
Why not? It's Friday, as we say in
So any comments you would wish to make about the week, even before you go to the topics of the day?
Well, just to decry the deterioration of decency and common sense in our political elite, among our political elite, I think the bashing and brinkmanship is not inspiring confidence in Kenyans, but also not to spare Kenyans as well. Because again, I think you have an option. When I was watching a clip yesterday where the CS Health, Muteka, was being quoted as having said, if you go to a rally, if a politician goes to a rally and finds that there's no crowd, they probably won't go back. You know, I found Dr. talking about COVID-19 measures and how this political rallies also threaten or maybe increase the spread of COVID-19. But also, there's also the question of what are citizens doing. I mean, honestly, you certainly will not find me in a political rally during this time. And then if I'm going to be in that rally, shall have taken measures to ensure my own safety. I mean, you have to stop this hard mentality that because your favorite political elite or regional kingpin is coming to a particular area, you have to rush there or you have to be mobilized. But I think also, maybe there's the unspoken issue is probably these youth are mobilized using money. Maybe they are paid to go.
Yeah.
So then you have to take chances. You know, is it easy? Would it be better to stay at home and starve, or maybe pick 500 and go to a rally and risk it all? I think it also then speaks to deterioration of seriousness in government. I don't think this government has done enough to create jobs as they had promised. And that's why when you call a rally, you find crowds, you know. People easily, you know, when I watch the rallies, the DP's rally and the Right Honorable Prime Minister rally, they're attended by huge masses and on a working day. I think it's a sad thing. Politicians love crowds. The bigger the crowd, the merrier, the better for them. But also, that those crowds should indicate a certain level of desperation and anxiety within our society that Kenyans are really, really unemployed. They're jobless. The people in charge of making decisions of expansion of the economy, growing the economy, creating jobs, I don't think they're doing a great job in that. Do they have a listening, caring attitude? Certainly no. So that's where we are.
Yeah, but I think Wakili is raising a very fundamental question. I mean, yes, these rallies are huge, but one of the explanations why these rallies are huge is that a lot of Kenyans are actually idle because of joblessness, unemployment, right, which we're talking at about 70% right now, especially among the youthful population, who should really be working hard and building the economy of this country, building the nation. But the leadership knows that. I mean, it's not like they do not know. They know these figures exist. But you see, what is also surprising is that, I mean, let's draw parallels from countries that actually show concern for their citizen. I follow very closely, and I followed very closely the 2020 U.S. election, and I saw how just the wearing of mask became a political issue. Yeah. You know that wearing a mask is not a political statement, but it's actually about your health. Even right now, as we speak, they are debating in Congress about how do we save people who from, I mean, just put food on people's table? How do we save people from being foreclosed by banks and all that kind of thing? This for me speaks about a leadership in a country. What kind of leadership are we seeing in Kenya today in the midst of a pandemic? We know today that even though we have medical covers, very expensive medical covers for some of us who can afford it, but you know, today, because God forbid that you contract COVID-19, you know, it doesn't matter whether you have a 10 million, 15 million medical cover. Medical insurance will tell you you're on your own.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, and I'm telling you, they will throw you under the bus in the midst of a pandemic. It's not like your own making. It's not like you are driving on a road and got an accident. This is a global phenomenon. But you can imagine that the leadership is not even talking about it. But instead, what they like is to assemble this huge crowd because they are taking advantage of their vulnerability and their, you know, and their weaknesses. So the question really is that, you know, even in these rallies, I mean, let me bring another point here. Even in these rallies, what honestly are they communicating? Because I've tried to listen. I rarely watch this rally because I think it's just complete nonsense and rubbish. It's a waste of time. I struggle to actually listen. Okay, what is the message? If you want to these rallies in terms of promoting BBI, what is it you're telling about people about BBI? To tell BBI that because you know the majority of them are actually youthful population, and you tell them, oh, in the BBI there is youth fund. That's what I heard Raila say. That's not news. Yes. We already have a youth fund. You know, I mean, I'm struggling to listen to what actually is the message, even from the so-called Tanga or Wheelbarrow Asla Nation. I even struggle to listen. What actually is Ruto communicating to the population, that huge masses, about why they have come? I mean, there has to be a message. You have to say, okay, this is the policy. Of course, there's nothing being communicated because, like I said before, Bitok in your show, there's absolutely nothing new about BBI. Because if you really want to fix the problems of this country, it have already been established. Okay? And right now, the rallies we are seeing is because of two things. Either of BBI or 2022.
Yes.
Period. It has nothing to do with, okay, can we talk about the economy?
Yes. How
How do we revive economy? How do we take our kids back to school? Right now, I know kids are back to school, but the risks is huge. I don't know which country. I was just talking about, you know, I was watching CNN News, I think very late into the night, and now the new COVID variant is becoming the real threat. We are not even talking about it here in Kenya. We have not even closed our borders.
I understand we even have 16 new COVID threats
in Kenya.
Yes.
It's possible. It's possible because we've never stopped flying into the UK. We've never stopped flying into South Africa where this new COVID-19. But you don't hear the leadership of this country speak about those issues, the issues that concern about us as a people. Today, as we speak, I mean, just pick the newspaper today, and I invite the listeners, the viewers, to just pick the newspaper today. Go to the back pages. You see how people are being auctioned, but auctioneers will also tell you we can't even find anybody to buy.
Yeah.
These goods that we are auctioning. Why? Because the economy is in tatters. People have no money. There is no money in their pockets. Which is why progressive countries like, say, the US, you know, are talking about, okay, how do we save people from being foreclosed? How do we save people from those who have lost employment? So they're actually debating about getting a certain amount of money, a COVID-19 relief package, to make sure that people can still live decently. You know, people, I mean, look, countries like the US, you see people actually lining up for food, food rations. UK has converted some motels into, COVID-19 centers, in isolation centers. What are we talking about in Kenya? We're talking about BBI, 14 billion we are spending. We have not paid doctors, nurses, clinicians, and all that kind of thing. We're talking about 2022. I mean, we must be a country of very mad people, to be honest.
and you've always say there's something you've always talked about is that, you know, the Wananchis are conduits. They are conduits and all these things. They are the weak link between all these.
No, like Dr. John kept on saying in the previous shows, we are willing slaves. Yeah. You know, we have to do what the master says to us. If the master doesn't say anything, we must think that something is fundamentally wrong with us or with the master. So you have to say, I'm a willing slave. Please enslave me.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a letter even as I throw it back to you. There's a letter that was done by the guys in the industry, in the entertainment industry. And this is what he said: Mr. President, your elder brother Raila and your small brother Ruto all held some serious rallies over the weekend in full supervision of government machinery that included full security, of course, in full contravention of COVID-19 rules. We are amply asking, as your nieces and nephews, we also be allowed to also work at night as wasanii, DJs, waiters, wines and spirit, watu wa nduthi, watu wa mayai, matatus, taxis, watu wa vibanda, watu wa veve, watu wa vibanda.
They're making a very powerful point.
Watu wa veve, watu wa shisha, watu wa koinange, na kila mtu mwenye anapiga shughuli usiku. If your brothers continue doing their thing, sisi kama vijana will also surprise you one of these Fridays, but we will invite you kidogo usikize UB40 ushikishe na sisi kidogo pale kwa vite. Now the question is, why the bias in the way this country is run? We believe there's COVID-19 that needs to be tamed. But then again, we believe that there are some people who should not be breaking the COVID-19 rules. If COVID-19 is no longer with us, why can't we just open up the economy? Because people are suffering. Kenyans are suffering.
Actually, I wish Mutahi Kagwe could tell Kenyans before Wakili jumps in, whether they have relaxed the rules around gathering. Because that's one of the protocols. By the way, last Saturday, I was actually harassed by a cop.
Oh, really?
Because I was leaving, in a restaurant at 9:30. He actually stopped me and refused for me to leave, and insisted he wants to arrest me. At 9:30, I was harassed. But when I look at those crowds, I wonder then where are the policemen to enforce government? And actually, I asked the policeman, so what is my offense? He said, you have violated government directives.
Which ones?
Yeah?
Which ones?
I asked which one. It is 9:30 and I want to drive home. He refused. But when I look at those crowds, Bito, let's draw parallels. It's just me and a friend leaving a restaurant at 9:30. 9:30. And I was sure within 10 minutes I'll be in my house. But I'm looking at those crowds. Really, between me and those crowds, who violated government protocols or directives? In the supervision of a policeman.
Well, I think we had a sensational response to COVID-19. You know, the press conferences were something to look forward to, you know, the messaging and all that. But the failure of government to tame or control the spread of COVID-19 is actually embarrassingly large. But the government is caught between a rock and a hard place there, in the sense that it cannot open the economy per se, because it's looking at the global trend, and it doesn't want to be, you know, it cares about its international reputation or reputation abroad. What will other you know, progressive nations think if Kenya opens, you know, when other states are trying to enforce new measures? That is the only reason why, and it's for, you know, they care about the international perspective more than our local reality, because the local reality paints a different picture. Government has actually given up on their own COVID-19. It's no longer, they're no longer enforcing it. I actually stopped tracking the updates, looking at the rallies by top-ranking government officials, including the president himself, you know, the prime minister and the deputy president. They're attracting huge crowds and their supporters, That kind of posture is not consistent with seriousness in terms of containing. I think even if there's money that is being redirected or maybe still being used, expended in terms of mainstreaming or communicating COVID-19 messages, I think we need to rethink that, because you can't be spending millions of money trying to sensitize the public while you're also desensitizing the public in reality, you know, with their actions. So I think Kenyans must know that insofar as COVID-19 is concerned, you are on your own. Because of internet penetration, you can Google and do your own research. What kind of measures can you take? You know, just to take care of yourself, because this government is least concerned with your worries. It will enhance its responses to COVID-19 based on what the international actors and donors want. If there's a lot of pressure from IMF and World Bank and other donors, they would probably enhance, you know, or tighten measures towards our response towards COVID-19, not because they really believe those measures should translate into real change, but because they want to please some international actors. Locally, the picture is very much different. I think what I see is this. Going forward, if you look at the messaging within this BBI, this rallies, the pro-BBI, anti-BBI, I think it's safe to say, and for me, I totally liberated, the people, what DP Ruto has done, he's managed to capture the imagination of the youth who are really disparate with the message of hope, to the extent that he's been able to disentangle himself from the failures of Jubilee. And I think that is being clever. He shouldn't run away from the failures of Jubilee because he's the deputy president. Truth be said, yeah. So when I look at his posture and I look at the posture of those in government, including the former prime minister, who is, for all practical purposes, in government, yeah, I don't think there's much hope, contrary to what is being sold by BBI proponents and even BBI antagonists. Yeah, there's not much hope in the current political elite. And I want to tell Kenyans, if you cannot look beyond the present leadership, I mean, that's up to you to decide, yeah? You've got to have to now rethink your commitment to the current political leadership. The big five, yeah? The Kalonzo Musyokas, the William Rutos, the Raila Odingas, the Musalia Mudavadis.
Sounds like the animals in the park.
The big five. Yes, the big five. The big five.
The big five.
I think we should lock them somewhere in a zoo so that tourists can come and look at the big five.
I can tell you, until you reach a level where you go beyond ethnic patronage, yeah? Ethnic solidarity, and you start analyzing, Dr. Ekuru's views are very close to my own ideological disposition. And I can tell you, if Kenya was serious in terms of framing solutions, I'm not talking about just to make him happy, because I don't think I'm interested in that kind of posture. But I can tell you, the alternative voices in this country do actually exist. And if Kenyans wanted options, fresh pair of hands, they can always find them. But they don't want to exercise that opportunity. They keep on electing the same set of thieves and thugs and then complaining. I think what Kenyans should do is this. If you decide to make your bed, then just be careful to lie on it, right? If you vacate common sense and you act the same way, then don't rely on common sense thereafter. I don't think the current leadership, looking at the alternative government in waiting, the political opposition, looking at the government, the administration in power, their response to national crisis, I don't think they're really serious to transform this country. It's about time that Kenyans think beyond the current leadership and ask ourselves, who are the alternative voices that we can trust? That maybe then real change will come.
All right, but talk before we jump into the other next. There's something that Wakili has alluded to, which I think for me is very important in the management of this COVID. I mean, of course, in the context of transformative and caring leadership. If you look at, for example, last year, when COVID-19 really hit hard from, say, around February all through to the year, we were at a standstill as a country, and so was the entire world. I mean, flights stopped, anything stopped. One of the things that I keep on asking, we had a budgetary allocation, especially for development and many other things. Why is it that we could not redirect that money, for example, to just mass testing Kenyans and ensuring that there are sufficient measures to shield Kenyans from this pandemic? Where did that money go? And I think this, for me, is a fundamental question we need to ask, even right now.
Even the vaccine, they've said you're going to pay 700.
Even the vaccine. Surely, I mean, you see other countries in the world that really care. They go even to, to places looking for people to make sure they are vaccinated, they are tested and all that. For me, I would have thought that a country such as ours, when we had this budgetary allocation for development projects and all that, which were not ongoing, we could have redirected that money to save humanity. But that never happened. And the other thing that Wakili has alluded to, for me, I slightly differ, Ogolla. I don't think Ruto is giving Kenyans any message of hope. Actually, he's mocking Kenyans. If the wheelbarrow is your symbol, of hope for Kenyans, you're actually mocking Kenyans. I know many Kenyans with degrees, people who are really educated, who are struggling. If you are telling them that your only symbol of hope is that we must give you a wheelbarrow, as it's your lifesaver. Actually, he is mocking Kenyans. There is no hope there. It's like he's telling people, you stay in that state. And let me tell you, this is what those animals you described, the big five, which I think for me we should take them to a museum so that Kenyans can come and just be passing by and see these are the big five who have actually caused us the problem in this country. What those guys have done, they have exploited the vulnerability of Kenyans over time. And what they have consistently done is they have ensured that we are in that state of hopelessness, of vulnerability, and that's what They know. Today, Ogolla, if you and I don't get into the political space and seek leadership, the big five won't care less.
Yeah, sure.
We can make noise here at the tackle, analyze all these things. But for me, what I urge everybody who is really conscious about this country, who wants to save this country, who wants to be the alternative voice, I think we need to get out there and muddy ourselves, because we have to put in ideas. We have to try and change the masses, which these people are actually exploiting. And I keep on saying, I tried it last year, but one with the Punguza Mizigo, at least, and we managed to cause a conversation in the entire country. So these things is possible. It's possible. You don't need to be a big five, actually. As a matter of fact, when I think about the so-called big five, what ideology do they even represent? When I listen to what they say, what do they say, honestly? I don't know. I mean, maybe we can.
That is revolutionary.
Maybe now we need to form the middle five. We can try.
I think so, and I think as many of us as possible should actually come on board. And I remember, I reached out to my former professor of constitutional law, Professor Kibwana, because I see he's in a group of people who are saying that
Linda Katiba, and then there is a Kongamano la Mageuzi. Of course, there are people like us who support Punguza Mizigo and many others. But I really think one of the major problems in this country, Wakili, Steve, is that we have to deal with the perennial challenge of unity in opposition.
Yeah, sure.
Because I do not understand why Kongamano la Mageuzi, Linda Katiba, Punguza Mizigo, and many others cannot come together and give Kenyans that hope. I don't really understand why. I think we are also the problem, And this is what I was telling Professor Kibwana 2 days ago, and I told him, Prof, I think we are the problem. How come we have all agreed that we are not supporting this BBI, we are not supporting the Hustler Nation, because the Hustler Nation now is one of the biggest, criminal enterprises in this country. It is really a criminal enterprise. Let me tell you, Ebu Jaribu Gonga today, a boda driving a car, whatever. It doesn't matter the make of your car. The way those guys assemble and surround you, immediately they see you because you are driving a car, they say you are the dynasty. They are their hustlers.
And also Langata vehicles were actually branded.
But again, now that you guys have brought that in,
they'll beat you up.
And I
can tell you, the policemen are aware of this.
Now that you guys have brought that in, and now just have some very critical thinking.
We really have to.
Let's have some very critical thinking.
Yes.
Now, let's look at Langata. Scenario. There are people who have been the Asla narrative is there and is running. We cannot run away from it. It's already there. Whether it's dangerous or not dangerous, it's already there. Now, there are the people who have been driving the message that this thing is dangerous have been one side of the criminal, because these are all criminal enterprises. The other criminal have been calling these others criminals. Tell me, Steve Ogolla, why the guys on this other camp are being accused of being intolerant and actually fighting people who seem to be having wealth go ahead and actually demonstrate that they are doing it? Don't you think the people who are actually doing those gravity things on people's cars in Langata are the guys from the other criminal enterprise?
No. I think the thing is, I think the hustler narrative has been hijacked by thugs from all sides, and they are the common petty thugs, who are now developing an agenda of disrupting people's lives and livelihoods and actually stealing and vandalizing property. As we head towards the election, you will see where I live. It's very close to Lower Karen, aka Kibera, and the youth will storm into Langata and break into our houses and steal whatever they can pick because of the hustler dynasty narrative. So it has been hijacked by petty thugs. And I think the original promoters of the original idea of hustler have not done enough to desensitize the youth from hijacking the hustler narrative and converting it into a criminal enterprise. But I think there's also credence in the argument that the promoters of that idea actually know that is the only way to break away from the failures of Jubilee. Where the deputy president is a principal actor in that government. I think right now, when you think about the failures of Jubilee administration, you really think about William Ruto. And that's why you see...
Prime Minister about the
yes. I think he's done very well. No, he's done very well. See, when you see, I think there was a time Senator Rengo said that Raila needs to get out now of the boardroom and be on the ground and start neutralizing the hustler message. And I think we've seen so much movement towards that, because right now Jubilee failures are now being curiously relatable, attributable to Raila Odinga, who is not in Jubilee, I mean, it defeats common sense to think that Raila could be responsible for Jubilee's failures. I mean, in all honesty, because he doesn't hold official position in government. Yeah. But the principal,
but does he have to hold? Because the way he acts, the way he behaves, he's even now flying Air Force One. I mean, the guy is really
well.
I think actually he's the deputy president or the co-president.
Well, his own conduct also has not helped.
He's a bad man.
No, I get it.
He's a bad man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he seems to enjoy trappings of power and with a lot of chess cars and all this. So you could see that a lot of power and influence now follows him. You know, post the handshake, and the Hustler team or the Tanga wing of Jubilee have been able to push Raila into the deeper end of Jubilee failures, so that he's now struggling. I think it must have been a very painful admission on the former Prime Minister's part to come out and castigate Jubilee very strongly, because he said that, listen, he also has active political interest, and if he doesn't say that Jubilee has failed to deliver this failed, I'm sure when he sat back to reflect, he probably thought that message antagonized Uhuru more than it probably intended to achieve the effect of neutralizing Tanga movement or narrative, because he wanted the people to say that, listen, Ruto can't run away from the failures of Jubilee. But in so doing, he saw Murkomen coming out very quickly and saying, okay, now you are attacking your brother with whom you are in government, you know. And then I guess there must have been some damage control on the other side. I think what is happening is this. In this hustler dynasty narrative, if we are not careful as a nation, we will see a flare of fresh post-election violence of monumental proportion never seen before. Because you see, it won't now be against the Kikuyu, against the Kalenjin or the Luo, against the Kikuyu, and so on and so forth. It will and you know, because we live in a poor country, you don't just need to step out of your house to find a poor man. But you don't need to go far. And the poor man just needs to step out of his house to find a car to stone, and to vandalize. And now find another poor man. It won't care. He won't care about whether this guy is owned by a Luo or a Kikuyu. I think that's a dangerous narrative. There are Kenyans who are really hardworking.
But you know, no, let's call a spade a spade. You know, if you want to liberate this country, we should just be truthfully honest. The problem I see with this so-called leading politicians in this country, the Uhuru, the Raila, the Rutos, the Kalonzo, Mudavadi, is the commercialization of politics. They must survive. And for them, politics is their business, is their trade. So, and I think Kenyans also must be told the truth. There is no way Ruto can extricate himself from the failures of Jubilee. He cannot. In fact, if you remember the video, the launch of Ziti Jubilee in Kasarani, who was announcing the most promises, actually? I think it was Ruto. In 6 months, we'll build an...
And I think Uhuru was clever. I think we wrote it on the card. I think
Uhuru actually made very few announcements, if you recall. It was Ruto who was making the most promises.
I think they trapped him.
I don't know whether they trapped him or not. But now, Kenyans must wake up and say, why should a person who is part of the failure of this country be the guy to beat in 2022? Why? I mean, we are crazy. We are crazy to think that William Ruto now is a clean guy. He is not. He's part of the system.
But politics is quite interesting.
Well, but you know what? Politics, yes. Politics can be interesting. Let's call politics interesting. But let's also be honest. Politics is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, politics is about public life. It's about our policies on education, on health, on employment, on security, on infrastructure, on the things that make us a nation. That's why we have political decisions. Again, I like to draw parallels to countries that really care about their people. If you look at, for example, President Joe Biden today in the US, he's actually promoting the idea that let's have a bipartisan decision making at Congress, because it's about Americans. And he's pushing for that narrative, that it does not matter whether you are a Democrat or a Republican today. Can we have some bipartisan decision making for the sake of the American people? So, but what come back home. Because EKURU AUKOT has come up with a good idea that's pro-Kenyans, let's kill it, let's oppose it, because that's politics. Ours is not even politics, it's staggering. It's culture. It is staggering. It is staggering. I mean, its mediocrity is idiocy at its very best. And I think we just need to call. I mean, look at some of the people whose ideas we follow in this country, or are supposed to chaperone this country in a certain direction. First of all, you even begin to wonder, okay, did they even go to school properly? What are even their levels of education? So how can we say those people are actually even playing any political ideas or propagating any political ideas or ideologies? And that's why I keep on go back to the question I raised earlier. Look at these big political rallies. What message are we getting from these political rallies? Other than to say it is us versus them. It's actually the creation of violence. You know, it's intimidating certain region and certain individuals. Like, okay, I'm not holding Ruto's brief, but let's be honest. Today, if you are opposed to BBI, you are branded Tanga. Even as independent as you are. You know, I've been told I'm part of Tanga. Even in the midst of the fact that I actually promoted a bill that successfully went through IEBC. But just because I'm opposed to BBI, so I'm Tanga. You know, this branding of people. So we never really sit down, we talk as people, sober people who can actually discuss ideas or issues. We discuss about how do I bring down Bitok, how do I bring down Wakili Ogolla, how do I beat him down to pulp so that it's me who stands. This is not even politics. This is thuggery.
All right. Allow me to do the comments briefly. Then when we come back, we look at some of the interesting that are happening. Ernest Jeria says, our youth are not that employed, but they are so selective that if you tell someone to go for a mujengo or as a security guard, you'll find them refusing. Most of those youths who sit and wait for 200 shillings from Weshemiwa are mostly selective. Not that because you are a Form 1 leaver or a graduate, you select a job. Kazi ni kazi. Haya. Sawa, Irone Yan says good morning to Tackle, good morning to you, Mohammed. Wapi Muluka leo ameshikika mahali kidogo, but he should be here next Friday for Sheria Wiki. Kibiego Elvis is tuned in from Kitale. There's a message I was trying to look for here. I've seen some comment here. I really want to see. Obadia live from Tarakani, that is Elvis. Obadia Lele says, with such independent minded like EKURU AUKOT can be given a chance to lead, very sensible. Moa says, greet my party leader and all the panelists. You guys are doing a great job informing people differently. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, so that I don't really go deep into the comments. It's William, how do you expect the government to be serious with COVID-19 measures? And they already made the pandemic a cash cow. In fact, any drop in cases is bad news to them. Either way, any drop in cases is bad news to government. The violence in Githurai, and also I saw something again happened again in Buma at the end of the DP's meeting. What does it mean? Because the other time it happened in Githurai, the guys from ODM came out guns blazing and said these are guys who are hired. So why are the guys yesterday were asked the deputy president? And how does it make you feel about are we getting back to political intolerance? I'll start with you, Ogolla.
I think this is something that does not even require analysis. Fact of the matter is this: the attack on DP Route was a retaliation attack for the embarrassment that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga faced the other day, because politicians can always get mobs to heckle. So I think that was arranged, just like the attack on Raila Odinga was also arranged. It's very unlikely that even if you don't support BBI, you'd want to heckle Raila Odinga. I mean, because usually when he's he's a man who works the crowd, and is unlikely to say things that openly antagonize someone to the extent of incitement, not at this stage. So if you saw those people heckling him, they were actually mobilized to go and heckle him. And I think his supporters and the MPs that he controls in Nairobi retaliated. They organized goons to also go and heckle Ruto to neutralize. So that is just... It's just, we don't need to overanalyze that. But what we are now, if left unchecked, they will then escalate. Then now you'll see blood flowing, then you'll see deaths, then you'll see real violence. Right now, it's starting like just, heckling for embarrassment, to neutralize the BBI message, to neutralize the Tanga message. But it can go deeper than that if left unchecked. And that's why we must condemn it, and we must ask the investigative authorities to find out who was this that was hiring this youth to go and heckle Raila Odinga, to go and heckle William Ruto, because they must be attributable or traceable to the two camps. If you can't arrest and arraign these people, then I think there's going to be a failure on the part of investigative agencies to begin to tame the violence before it gets to disparate levels.
Bitok, yesterday I had a very interesting conversation with a very senior police officer in our country. And we ended up discussing about the effect of this so-called Asla narrative and dynasty narrative. And according to them, from a security point of view, they're actually seeing violence in the making. But I challenged him. I told him, but what are you doing as policemen? If you know the people who are actually propagating this narrative, then why are you not summoning them and cautioning them or warning them and telling them, listen, from the way you are talking to your supporters, you are actually making violence. Just look at the way, for example, President Donald Trump in the US was speaking to his supporters. He was inciting them. Now he's being impeached for insurrection. So I was telling him, look at what happens in other countries. If a political or a leader is actually propagating a certain narrative which is dangerous to the country, I think you need to call that leader in. Doesn't matter his position or their position. I mean, you need to caution them and tell them to stop that kind of, because at the end of the day, we expect you as the policemen to actually keep peace, security for all of us. So I'm actually surprised that policemen are actually following this issue, following this debate, and they see the danger in it, but they are doing nothing about it, because they are dealing with Weshimiwa, which is really, for me, a lot of nonsense.
Right. How do you feel we are getting back to political intolerance? Do you think that's what we are getting?
Oh, yeah.
Are you afraid?
Well, I'm afraid. I'm afraid, and I'm concerned as a citizen, and that's why I think we are speaking about this issue today. And I really wish that this country can diversify in terms of political opinion. And like Wakili Hebli said, it is time for us to think about alternative voices, and alternative voices need really to come on board. Because the fact, Bitok, is this, that we, the people who keep on complaining about the problems of this country, have sat on the fence for far too long. We've become curious onlookers. We are fence sitters. We have allowed the political space to be monopolized by a tiny minority of individuals who think it is actually their preserve. I mean, they behave like Kenya is actually their gardens. They hold the title deeds for this country, and therefore, Steve Ogolla comes to try and propagate a certain idea. They say, "Who are you? I mean, where did you come from? Do we know you? You are not a member of this club." So Kenya is like a private members club, and that's where we have reached as a country. And yes, the way they are propagating their political whatever. I mean, I don't even want to call it idea because it's a misnomer. It is very dangerous for all of us. I mean, let me give you an example, Bitok. I'm a student of forced migration, and I took some time to read about forced migration. And I tell you, I visited refugee camps in many countries globally. And in those refugee camps, I have met former lawyers, attorney generals, generals in the army, bankers, professionals. Why did they end up in these refugee camps or as IDPs? Because law and order broke in the country. And this is where, for me, I see the danger in this country. There are some people in Kenya today who, if they don't get into government or leadership, they would rather destroy Kenya and the rest of us. And that's where we are.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk about there's something that happened again in Githurai the same day. Raila Odinga was told he was being taken to Central, so he was taken to Githurai to cut a ribbon.
But Githurai is in Nairobi.
That's where I'm heading to. He was told he was being taken to Central, and he was told to cut a ribbon. Now that was the entry to Mount Kenya. That's the next question. But the first question is, Raila Odinga was being welcomed by Orengo from Siaya, Babu Wino from Embakasi East, originally also from Nyanza. I saw, I think there was again the guy from Western. The only Kikuyu leader or legislator was Maina Kamanda, who is not elected actually. And I want you guys to convince me that Uhuru Kenyatta is not part of this game. I want you to take your time and convince me. Murathe, who has been going to Upper Hill every time to have tea, was not in that meeting. Kina Kanini Kega were not in that meeting.
I don't know what
all these guys were not.
I don't know what Wakili Ogolla will say.
I think I'll start from Wakili. I think there's a lot of political conmanship that's happening. And I want you, Ogolla, I want you to convince me that Uhuru Kenyatta is not part of this script. I want you to convince me.
No, I think first of all, that was not entering or facing Mount Kenya properly, so called. I think what happened in Bondo may have been maybe characterized as facing Mount Kenya. I think that is the kind of political maneuvers that demoralize the right-minded. I mean, even if you want to find humor in it, there's really cutting a ribbon to enter Githurai, I mean, which is really part of Nairobi.
very multi-ethnic, very multi.
No, let me tell you, we may forget the genesis of the problem, the historical account of the failures of the Jubilee administration, where we are now, and what it means for the future. You see, if there was no handshake, the politics of betrayal we are seeing now would not be there, and maybe the politics would have taken a dramatic turn. Yeah, it was understood within Jubilee rank and file that Uhuru would do his 10 and then Ruto would do his 10. But I think analysts and commentators saw this coming. Yeah, we just didn't expect it to unfold in the form and shape of to manifest in the form and shape of the handshake. But Kenyan political history is replete with politics of betrayal. There was no assurance 8 years ago that after Uhuru completes 10 years, he would hand over power. You know, and if that transfer of power to within Jubilee to William Ruto was going to be done, it would have had to appeal to the larger voting bloc of Mount Kenya, because the way Kenyan politics is organized. I think because of the first term of Jubilee and the second term, those in Jubilee, and I think there's value in that statement, that in the first term of Jubilee, some Jubilee leaders felt that William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, basically they shared government 50-50. And now Uhuru is leaving. Why should he leave the government to William Ruto to do another 10 when he's done 10 years already? Yeah. So how then? What about where does that leave the Mount Kenya leaders? Yeah, who really still felt that they need. If Ruto is going to be there, they still also need to have a bigger stake. So then, what happened post the handshake? Those who have been agonizing with the idea of taming Ruto found a pathway in Raila Odinga, and I think Raila Odinga's advisors also must have thought that, listen, there's a decent chance that Raila may not be president without Mount Kenya backing. So what if he tries wooing Uhuru Kenyatta and Mount Kenya to get the support? And there's no harm in trying, you get. Because once he gets the solid support of Mount Kenya, then he's halfway through. That is why you see people like facing Mount Kenya, cutting ribbons. The battle is to succeed the vote-rich Mount Kenya region. But the problem I see with this kind of politics is this. Politicians and our leaders are constantly or continuously reinforcing the perception that politics is, or the reality, that politics is organized around ethnic solidarity. Now, that's what I'm saying. If you benefit from the status quo, you can't disrupt it, yeah? People who can disrupt the status quo are people that are most aggrieved with it, people that are hurt by it, yeah? Right now, once you get the larger bulk of Mount Kenya, and that's what even Ruto is trying to do. You see, even the analysis that you're doing, no, of course there are no leaders from Mount Kenya in Githurai, but why that is good news to Tanga Wing is because they also don't want the inroads they've made in Mount Kenya to be eroded by Raila Odinga or the alternative wing, you know. So this politics that you see from the Ruto side, from Raila side, Kalonzo side, and all this is just about protecting your turf first and then negotiating to bring someone's turf into your turf, yeah. And if you are conceptualizing leadership based on ethnic arrangement, then you can see that you're going to inherit the problems of the present, and you're going to transition with them into the future. That's what I'm saying. As it is right now, I can tell you, Bitok, it doesn't really matter who becomes the president between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. The leadership, the administration, the next administration will act the same, if not worse than the present administration.
But the question is, Ogolla, there's something I wanted to, even as I allowed Daktari to chime in. The situation in Githurai. The president has continued to assure Raila that yeye ni ndugu yake. But hao mandugu walikuwa wapi Githurai? Wasialike baba Central Kenya. No, do you think Uhuru Kenyatta is, because you cannot tell me Uhuru Kenyatta sits with this guy, he's even meeting them tomorrow in Sagana. Why could he not mobilize his MPs to go and welcome Raila Odinga in Githurai?
I don't think Githurai was really properly so-called facing Mount Kenya. And I'm doubting the seriousness of the organizers of that. That's why I'm unable to imagine what was going through Uhuru's mind. But Githurai properly so-called can't be called as entering Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya is not in Githurai. I mean, it's a very, very cosmopolitan region. I think the conveners, the organizers of that meeting probably were lacking in seriousness, yeah? They just wanted to have some fun around it. The issue is this. Whether Uhuru is committed to the BBI beyond the 2017, up to the post-2022 election, I think is an ongoing debate. Because sometimes he strikes hot, sometimes he strikes cold, yeah? But what he's getting right is that he's been able to neutralize the fierce political opposition that was there since 2013, yeah? The first administration. With Raila out of the picture and Ruto, you know, intimately concerned with succession politics, there's really no one to check this government. This government can't check itself. Ruto himself can't antagonize, can't call out the president because he doesn't want to risk the support in Mount Kenya. Raila himself now can't call out the government because he wants to benefit from the support in Mount Kenya. He's also in government.
If he tries to shoot Ruto, he has to shoot.
So really, you can see really at this particular stage, Uhuru doesn't have to be overly committed to the handshake or to William Ruto.
Or even to BBI.
Or even to BBI. He doesn't have to.
Effectively, he doesn't talk about it.
He doesn't talk about it. So I think to rely on Uhuru Kenyatta's support, that's why I feel, in a way, it could be argued that Ruto probably seems to have an upper hand or a head start insofar as consolidating support in Mount Kenya goes, because he seems to have you can do a head count of actual MPs that support Ruto. You know, although at the top, you know, and the leadership in Mount Kenya, the way they like to frame it is that Uhuru Kenyatta is the de facto leader of Mount Kenya region. But you can see at the bottom, Ruto seems to have the numbers, yeah? The political leadership will also may be having some pockets of support. Those pockets of support, if you consolidate it, they could translate in the kind of votes that Ruto needs to become president. Right. So Ruto and Raila are struggling to win Uhuru's support. But Uhuru is not any anxious to express commitment to either. You know, he sends Mount. I think I can tell you also, Bitok, if you saw the Gamer leadership, yeah, going to Bondo, of course you could say that they had gone there with the tacit support of Uhuru Kenyatta just to manage expectations in that region. And you see Uhuru going to Kisumu to launch projects and so on and so forth. That is part of the political communication to try and deal with the expectations. But then also when it's needed really to bring Raila right into the deeper ends of Mount Kenya, sometimes he holds back, yeah? And maybe the conversation that will happen tomorrow in Sagana probably will go like, okay, allow me to complete my term. Whatever happens will happen. I don't think you can say with certainty that Uhuru Kenyatta will support, or the entire Mount Kenya will support William Ruto or Raila Odinga at this stage. Support interest formation.
EKURU AUKOT, you are coming into
yes,
you're coming to Rift Valley. Rift Valley, part of
no, we'll come to it. But let me make some prophecies, and please mark my words. Number one, Baba anachezwa.
Aya.
And I will leave it at that. You'll remember me for this.
Baba anachezwa.
Baba anachezwa.
Okay.
Number two, sometimes later in this year, towards the middle of this year or late this year, nobody will be listening to Uhuru, whether from Mount Kenya or elsewhere.
Aya.
Thirdly, Uhuru has never been the kingpin in central Kenya.
I'm making a tablet of these prophecies you're making.
You should. Uhuru has never been the kingpin of central Kenya, and he will not be able to chaperone central Kenya into one basket and say support so and so. He will not. In fact, even his own political pedigree over many years actually has shown that. There is a time Uhuru was could not even win a seat in Gatundu together with the presidency. He had to recalibrate himself so that in 2007, that's when he had to support Kibaki, who was popular in central Kenya. And that's the only reason why Uhuru bounced back in 2013, because he supported. And the reason central Kenya actually supported Uhuru in 2013 is because Raila was running, who was mistrusted. I'll tell you this, Bitok. Commercial transaction happened between Uhuru and Raila. Raila knew, and like Wakili has actually said it, I don't even want to repeat it. With Raila outside government, he was going to bring hell to the Jubilee administration. Why was Jubilee worried about that? Jubilee was worried about that because it's a failed government. They never believed in anything that they promised Kenyans. And the only person with machinery, with even political capital to disrupt administration is Raila. There are many other voices, but Raila has had inroads. He also has a political capital, a political constituency. I mean, he has developed it over the years. So Jubilee, the genius of Jubilee administration, to go back into slumber and to fail to deliver on their political promises, was to bring in the only noisemaker out there who could actually point out their failures. And that's how Baba was brought into government. And that's how democracy in this country has been killed. The idea of calling government into account has been killed. Okay? But we talk. I want us to move away from discussing personality, because this is one of the endemic problems in our country. We are discussing Kenya as if it is Uhuru, Ruto, Raila, and the rest. I wish we could move on to discuss issues that affect Kenyans, and why these leaders have even failed over the years. These leaders we complain. These are all the same thing. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you at some point, again, this could be another prophecy you want to record. I am seeing a repeat of the NAC coalition, Wakili. If hell breaks loose, all these people will gang up together and come up with another coalition government in 2022. Because they all belong to the same. They have all served in various governments together. Even look at the coalition government. Look at from let's say talk from 1997, times of cooperation with KANU, Raila was there. 202, there are those who stayed away. 207, Kalonzo betrays Raila, goes into with Kibaki and the rest. So I think really the problem in this country is the failure of the majority, the ordinary majority, to actually proactively participate in the governance of Kenya and to say, this is the alternative voices that we have. And really, the sooner we stop discussing these personalities, the better for this country. Because we're discussing this personality in the context of their own personal interest. It's no longer about Kenya, by the way. The way I analyze situation, I see that it is about their own personal interest. In fact, I see a situation where the reason, for example, Uhuru brought Raila on board is probably he thinks, do we trust, say, Ruto, if Ruto is the guy to beat in 2022? Will Ruto protect our interests? Will he not interfere with our interests? That which we have accumulated over the last 50 plus years. So they need a fellow who understands them. And by the way, when Raila and Uhuru call each other brothers, they all partly grew up in State House. I think it was Ruth Odhiambo, Raila's younger sister, who actually said that, Raila used to carry all of them in his back. So these people come from a long way. And so there is no time that they will really differ so much. It's like you and your brother and your sister. You can fight, you can refuse to talk to each other. At some point, blood is thicker than water, as they say. So these people are one and the same. So I think let's move this debate to what are the problems that affect this country and how do we maneuver ourselves through those problems.
But these people are the problem, like you said.
Exactly. So let's start from there. That's a very good starting point. So the problem in this country is Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto.
You call them the big five.
Yeah, the big five. They like the wild animals that we have in the Masai Mara and and the rest. So that started from that problem. So one of the solutions to the problem of this country is to relegate this so-called big five. Is to lock them out. And now the solution would be, let's have new leadership, new blood come in. And I want to persuade Wakili Steve here, let's not be analysts anymore. We can analyze this situation, but let's get into the game. Let's play this game.
I get it.
So he's being, the other day he tried to play it. Anyway, pick it up. Ogolla. He tried to play, but the system gave him an undertaker move.
Oh yeah.
And it's just
right now we'll be talking to someone in power. And there was no fair referee.
Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Ogolla. Anyway, Paul. These people are very serious.
They pulled the rug from under my feet.
Right. You're
we say that they do combe, like literally pulling the cup from someone's mouth. Just before you take a sip,
someone slaps it off.
Grab it away.
You're about to chew.
That's when we started calling you Mashiniwa. These guys.
Let me just expand. There's at some point here, Dr. is saying, Uhuru is playing Raila, but he's also playing Ruto. And in the end, Mount Kenya is benefiting. Let me show you how.
Okay.
In the Jubilee arrangement, Jubilee matrix, before the handshake, Ruto was the automatic presidential candidate. And at that time, he had the luxury of time. And he had the comfort, and he was shopping for a running mate from across the country. Yeah? There was a time he was quoting Governor Waiguru. Yeah. He had some conversation with the Kwale governor. And also Gideon, and also some, I think Kilifi MP Gideon Mungaro. He had a conversation with Oparanya at one point. He was quoting Mudavadi. He was quoting Obado. There was some leadership also in Western Kenya. Even Mudavadi at one point, yeah. And also, so all these leaders, even in Kisii. So he was trying to select or to identify a potential running mate from across the board, yeah. But post the handshake, he has been cornered to only pick the running mate from Mount Kenya. I think Ruto, if you want to know that politics of the ethnic politics is still deeply embedded, Ruto can easily lose Mount Kenyan support if he picks the running mate outside Mount Kenya. That's already that is a significant win for the Mount Kenya region. Now there's some assurance that even if Ruto becomes president, they will get the running mate of the deputy presidency and probably some slots. Look at Raila Odinga. Because of the handshake, he really doesn't have an option. Why should we support you when you're difficult to sell in Mount Kenya and we already have a candidate, an automatic candidate, the deputy president, we already have who actually delivered votes for Uhuru Kenyatta. Why should we transfer that support? The only way Uhuru can communicate that the candidate of Raila Odinga is if Raila actually hands over the entire government back to Uhuru Kenyatta, back to Mount Kenya. He becomes a more of a ceremonial president, a figurehead. Let history judge him well that he was president, even if he doesn't have real powers. That's where you see the expansion of government, yeah? So where we are right now, Raila Odinga cannot run for president if he's not identifying the running mate for Mount Kenya. But if that is not, if he's pushed to the corner where now it is Raila Odinga's candidate running mate versus William Ruto's running mate, then he might as well actually not run at all. I think it's not beyond Raila not to run in 2022 as part of the final bargain. You get? If you see what happened on 9th March 2018, after the handshake, we saw Raila transforming himself quickly into someone who's now more complacent and compliant to the Jubilee administration and no longer questions it. Yeah, I think the man has also grown old and is feeling like, listen, I don't need to fight for this country beyond what I've done. If I can negotiate an exit package,
that's fair enough for me.
And even give Luo Nyanza the position of deputy president and then the presidential candidate to Mount Kenya, he will do it. So I think that's what I'm saying. It's still difficult or too early to suggest how politics at the top will play. But you see, all this is about politics, politics of numbers, yeah, ethnic arrangement, yeah. But the problem with that approach is that in the long run, it doesn't solve anything. As you can see, the so-called Big Five are ideologically aligned, which is just ethnic political patronage, ethnic support, and then you bring numbers together.
Actually, let's not credit them by even associating with any ideology. Let's call them politically aligned.
Yeah, the politically aligned, you get. No, that's what I'm saying. Listen, my least concern, and I'll be here practicing. In fact, I suspect very strongly that under Ruto's presidency, probably my law firm will thrive. But there'll be so many cases to litigate. And the same... hold on. And the same, maybe, I think if Kenyans are serious, they need to look beyond...
Just hold on the line, please.
They need to look beyond Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Alonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and of course, Uhuru Kenyatta.
All right, good morning.
Okay, my name is Eric. So, and I have comments to make. So I think the problem with that is Kenya is a big political orphanage. You see, every election cycle, cycling the same leaders are different brands, but the thing lack is an ideological hope.
Yes.
Every cycle of elections, these big five so-called names, I really don't think their names are very tiresome every time on the media. Keep getting into the game after sanitizing themselves and shedding off their old skin with new narratives like what we're calling right now hustler narrative and the dynasty things. But what Kenyans should do, I think Kenyans should clearly be talked and final. Is that we need to go outside thinking of these two guys. In fact, what is so special about Ruto is a personality? What is so special about Raila is a personality? There's problems in this country. Successive regimes, they have served in all these governments, and they have never brought this change they normally keep thinking about. I think it's time we guys open our eyes and our minds and just vote wise.
Hello? All right, I think the guy has disappeared. I'm gonna end up. It must be a network problem because I can't hear him anymore. Anyway, even the Ambo in hand, I think we'll be just picking calls in the next few minutes. You've also been challenged, EKURU AUKOT, that this Linda Katiba, punguza mzigo, kuna ingine ilikuwa inaitwa aje tena?
Kongamano la mageuzi. There is another one also being led by Mtumishi Kadhangu. Yes, called public accountability something. Yeah.
So why is it that you guys can never just form one umbrella group and make things happen in this?
To be honest, this is the question I've been raising even in this group. I've been invited. I've attended the one for Njeru Kathangu, and I did raise the same question. But it is a perennial problem with Kenyan politics that one of the biggest challenges has always been unity in opposition. There's never been, and even those people who say that they're in opposition, actually, will still be looking up to government for favors. And that's why I'm not surprised when Raila decided to join government, because, if the opposition in Kenya is not really opposition as such. But when I analyze all these, groupings in the context of opposing BBI, I really sympathize. Because, for example, Kongamano la Linda Katiba are saying that let's protect the constitution. What I have failed to see in all these groupings is the alternative to BBI.
Yeah.
Because what we are being boxed into is the usual opposition of you versus us. And that will just be kawaida politics. If you say Linda Katiba today, for example, Linda Katiba, look at the choreography. I mean, like Akili Steve has really eloquently analyzed. It's the same people we are saying today, Linda Katiba or enforce the Katiba, that will be in government if we don't come up with alternative. So they will never Linda this Katiba. That's the truth. Kongamano la mageuzi, what is it about us that we want to do? For me, and not to to sound selfish, but I think Punguza Mizigo was the only rival to BBI even right now, and that it was presenting to Kenyans an alternative. That yes, you are saying people are able to compare. This is your bill called BBI, but this is the bill called Punguza Mizigo. And in our case, we had even analyzed what are the benefits that will come to Kenya. And Wakiri will confirm here, when you are legislating or even writing any constitution or any policy, you have to establish the common good to society. In the absence of the common good to society, that's a bad law from the very beginning. So I think today what the problem with all these groupings are is that first, we are not able to come together. I don't know why. I have actually thrown this challenge back to these various groupings. Secondly, I've really urged them, let's give Kenyans an alternative, at least a choice. Let them have a choice between either BBI and something else, even if it's not Punguza Mizigo, because I don't want people to think that because I'm just promoting Punguza Mizigo here. I'm more than happy for people to say, okay, let's even present another, even if it's another amended draft, but at least we give Kenya an option. That's missing. And there's a lot of selfishness in our politics, because at the end of the day, it is fundamentally about selfish interests. It's about survival. It's not issue based, because if it was issue based, I don't see the reason why people who are opposed to this government shouldn't come together. We should actually come together and present one view. Just like, for example, in other countries, you have independents joining up with the opposition to oppose the sitting government, or independents sometimes agreeing with government on a certain issue against, say, the opposition. We don't see that in Kenya. If today, look at, for example, again, let's unfortunately we can't avoid talking about these personalities. You remember Kalonzo saying, I think it was in his father's funeral, that the only thing I will share with Jubilee, the only power I'll share with Jubilee is Kenya power. You remember he said,
and they said he would rather die than join the government. The other day he was
then the next thing you know, he's a special envoy to South Sudan. We already have an ambassador in South Sudan. So it was just a job the guy was looking for. And there was nothing to specially convey during this time. The agreements have already been signed. Riek Machar and Salva Kiir are already in government together. So there's really nothing a special envoy will do. But
it should actually bother you that everything in this country revolves around interest. Even the liberators that keep pushing a liberating agenda.
But there's absolutely nothing wrong with interest per se. I have a problem with selfish interests. If it is personalized selfish interests, then I have a problem with that. But yes, interests are there. People can meet over interest. What's our interest in this? But when you selfishly guard it, and it's about benefiting yourself at the expense of the majority, then there's a problem. Because, for example, today, we all, I was also supporting handshake at some point. Actually, I remember I was the only political leader that on the 10th, is it on the 10th? Yes. On the 10th of March 2018, that actually issued a statement and supported the handshake. Because I truly believe that Kenya has to be peaceful. But when the handshake happened, and thereafter, what happened to the masses that actually saw, for example, Raila Amolo Odinga in Uhuru Park? Did their problems change? And this is why I think, for me, I still urge Kenyans, go back to the sermon that was given by Canon Provost Sami Wainaina. And he said that if the fact that a member of your tribe becomes president doesn't mean that your problems actually, lessen or, go away. You still have the same problems. Go to Gatundu. Gatundu or Chaweri, where Uhuru Kenyatta comes. There are people who sleep hungry. There are people who walk barefooted. Their life hasn't changed.
Haya, tusikie mwananchi. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, sure.
Jambo Gerald.
Jambo, karibu kwa bunge.
Thank you so much.
Nazungumza na nani?
TRS Marshall.
TRS Marshall, jambo.
Jambo.
Haya, tuambie.
Daka ni mtako huyu jamaa anaitwa EKURU AUKOT.
Anakusikia.
Anasema wheelbarrow is a way of mocking the people.
Yes, that's what I said.
Na yeye juzi alikuwa na live wheelbarrow, alikuwa na camel kwa hiyo jamaa yake.
Yes.
You also part of the people mocking the people.
No, I wasn't mocking the people. I'll explain to you what the symbol of a camel, because looks like uja soma manifesto ya Third Way Alliance Kenya. Ukisoma, I'll explain to you why we picked the symbol of camel as a symbol of resilience of Kenyans, which I don't think the wheelbarrow is.
Even the wheelbarrow is part of the resilience.
Okay,
of the Kenyans.
I explain to us how it is.
Yes.
Anasema utueleze wheelbarrow ni symbol.
What does it symbolize?
It's the same as a camel because it carries what does one has.
Nguvu ya kubeba zimiti.
Na kokoto.
Actually, I have no problem with the wheelbarrow as a symbol of the camel. I think they're lacking in ideology. The problem we have with is this.
Asante sana TRS.
I think it just has a bone to pick with That's a real tanga.
Nataka kutako leo jamaa.
There's a serious question of constitutional and political relevance that Dr. EKURU raised, which has gone unattended. How can DP William Ruto, who we now have agreed cannot run away from the problems of Jubilee, be the person to transform the economy? I mean, he has to convince, he has to persuade us. You get? I don't think it's just safe to say that because of an alternative narrative, I'm now good to go. I think, and then the same question must be raised regarding the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga. If you are a man a man of conviction, who believes in doing things the right way, and Kenya has signed onto the Open Government Partnership (OGP),
yes,
that talks about transparency and accountability and openness in government, and now you are aiding the opaqueness in government, and we no longer question how then can we expect you to lead an open and transparent government? You know, these are questions that even Raila Odinga must answer. You know, he must answer. Because, you know, you can't get tired of an ideology. An ideology is what makes you who you are. You can't say, the way we've seen Baba supporters saying that, Baba pia apumziki akule kidogo. Baba akule. Ati anaumia sana. Amuta yawa kidogo. You know, how do you get tired of being yourself? Baba alambe glucose.
I mean, he's actually justifying failing.
Kuna jamaa mwingine hapa anasikia anasema, good morning. Good morning.
Hello, morning.
How are you?
Habari Gerard.
Salama sana.
Ni Martin.
Yes, Martin.
Bana, hapo tukubalini ukweli. The biggest problem Kenya ni the political parties. That is the biggest issue. Issue by the is tribalism, because if you have very strong parties, somebody from Turkana can also vie to be the presidential candidate of that party. But kama parties itakuwa people, the political leaders, the ones that are going to influence who is going to be the leader, tribalism is always going to be there. Because hizo political parties need tribal parties, headed by tribal leaders.
Tribal chiefs.
So, yeah, tribal chief. Even if you go to the US, the Democrats, the strongest person who is going to be the one that is going to lead the party in the presidential election has to be chosen. Has to go through a process. But sasa ukiangalia ODM wanasema sijui watu wanataka wachague presidential candidate. Na tunajua ukweli ni Raila ndiye atakuwa hapo.
Kwa katiba ya ODM actually the party leader is automatic presidential candidate.
So kinaoparanya wache hizo stories zao na kina Joho na kina Kingi. That is shenanigans. Hakuna penye inaenda. So the biggest problem Kenya democratically
ni issue ya parties.
Okay.
Mkisolve political parties problem, you'll have democracy. But hivi vitu zingine tuachane na hiyo story. Hakuna democracy hapo.
Okay. Asante sana Mate.
Yeah. Asante.
Alright.
I think just a quick comment on that.
Good morning.
Morning, Gerald.
Good morning to you, sir.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
I am congratulating you with your team.
Thank you.
Now, Steve Ogolla has just asked us whether we can see the DP if he is willing to change the economy. But for me, naona, unajua, the deputy president cannot be separated from the presidency. That is in the constitution. But now, with the issue of work, kwa kazi, the DP anaweza fanya kazi. Unaona in the 2013, 2017, when Jubilee was still Jubilee, the DP uliona kila mahali aki-launch ma projects. But now after handshake, maneno ya hiyo kazi ya DP ya ku-launch projects ikapewa kwa CS Matiang'i. Sasa DP angefanya aje? So for me, for my side, I can see if the chance to be given to the DP, atafanya kazi vizuri sana. Otherwise, I'm Langat Matthew from.
Hi, asante sana Langat Matthew from Nakuru. Good morning.
Good morning, Gerard.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm calling you from Eldama Raving.
Yeah, so am I speaking to?
You're talking to Haden Kip.
Haden Kip, jambo.
Jambo sana. I think it's high time we have an honest conversation. And I'm really proud of how your panel is handling issues.
Thank you.
It's high time we call a spade and not a big spoon. Because when leaders are taking us to the wrong side, I think it's high time we educate the local mwananchi so that at the end of the day they make the right decisions.
Okay.
Thanks, Gerard, for the good work you're doing, and I'm really proud of your panelists, both Fred and Ukuro, because they are debating based on facts and they are really honest.
Thank you so much. Na utuwekee mbuzi, tutakuja huko tukule mbuzi Eldama Ravine.
Kabisa, I will.
Unajua niko na huyu zurukana wangu mnapakana huko anapenda nyama.
Tambia natoka hapo Mogotio.
Na asali.
Kabisa. Thank you so much. Have a good day. And enjoy your weekend.
Yes, sir.
All right. I think tutamalizia simu hapo so that in the next probably because you're 10 minutes and I think 10 minutes now, 9:10. So now we can pick that conversation until the next 20 minutes.
We talk just like a quick comment,
Yes.
In the context of being honest, because Steve was coming on board. I just looked at the news today and I'm seeing, I think this is part of the honesty we need to accept. I see Murathe has said, Uhuru's promise to Ruto was like wooing a girl. So if I promise...
Ashameshaingia box.
Shaingia box. Sasa mambo gani mengine mnaongea?
Alikuwa anauliza have you ever seen campaigns in Africa?
Expanding that conversation. I think Kenyans should be very careful, especially Ruto supporters. The person stopping Ruto from being president is not Raila Odinga. It is Uhuru Kenyatta. Raila would not be in government through the back door if Uhuru had not permitted it.
Yes.
And Uhuru would not permit it unless he wanted to neutralize Ruto. So let's just locate the problem where it is.
Yeah.
But I think also, Ogolla, when you look at this as well, as you continue with your thoughts, I think if Raila had not gotten into government, Ruto would have been a very lame duck.
No, here's the thing. Now we can pontificate on that.
Yes.
But what has
because I think it has given him a fresh leash of life.
And he didn't have to exert himself because he was going to be the automatic success. And in fact, Ruto would be castigating Raila and the position as the usual way. I think the spotlight should be shown where it belongs. Uhuru has a problem with Ruto becoming president. And Murathe keeps on saying that and they keep on ignoring it.
You know, Murathe is Uhuru.
Yes, and diverting attention to Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is only being used. And I tend to agree that Raila is not harvesting the dividends, the political dividends of the fallout between Ruto and Uhuru. He's actually being used as a conduit or as a cover, to shield the blame from Uhuru Kenyatta, the president. So I think that must not go unattended. If the other question about ODM advertising for a presidential candidate, I don't, at first I dismissed it as unnecessary political drama. But sometimes nothing happens without reason. when you see ODM advertising, they're probably trial ballooning, trying to see, because the conversation within ODM rank and file that they don't have to field a presidential candidate is gaining support. Because since Uhuru is determined not to hand over power to Ruto, and Raila may not be the candidate that is sellable in Mount Kenya, if they can conspire, for lack of a better word, to give it to someone else, whether through ODM ticket or through someone else. Because you see, the way our politics is, let's say if it's not possible to identify someone else through ODM mechanism, then they'll create a new party, and then they'll say, let this candidate negotiate with the other person. So they could be preparing ODM supporters of a possible Raila's exit in 2022. Let's not underrate that possibility, because you see, Raila can calculate and recalibrate his chances, yeah? I mean, if politics, if Kenyans are going to vote based on the pattern that you already know, for Raila Odinga to be president, he needs the Mount Kenya support. If that support is not assured, then he can trade with the Luo votes, he can trade with ODM supporters, he can trade with it either to give them the deputy president, or to hand over the entire, so that he can just a figurehead, a ceremonial president without real portfolio, without real power. But if that can't work, then probably the handshake will collapse in its entirety, yeah? And Ruto then will be able to take over power.
If there's something is mentioned about Kenya support. Yesterday, the MPs wrote a letter, 13 pages, saying we cannot sell Raila Odinga in Mount Kenya. He has chimed in about the fact that Raila Odinga is counting on the Central Kenya, just to interrupt your Central Kenya support. What does that mean in terms of the angling of politics?
You know, first of all, I mean, it is so wrong that, and that's part of the issue that I really want us to move away from. It is so wrong to discuss the governance of this country from a tribal perspective, from a regional perspective. So what happens to the rest of us? If Kenya's politics is about Mount Kenya, individuals, so the rest of us are what? Are political flower girls in this country, you know? And I think for me, we need to kill that narrative. The other narrative we need to kill, for me, is this notion, misguided notion, that Uhuru is supposed to hand over power to Ruto. Uhuru doesn't have post his presidency, he does not have the power of this country post his presidency. So I think the idea, the wrong notion that Uhuru is supposed to hand over power to Ruto, for me Raila is wrong in the first place. It is the people of Kenya through an electoral process that determine who actually takes the reins of power. And what the president does at the ceremony then is to hand over whoever it is wins. I think if we allow ourselves to be boxed into this narrative that Uhuru was supposed to hand over power to Ruto, then let's forget about the idea of an electoral process. And maybe we are also justifying the fact that they will have to do everything possible to steal an election so that they unlock everybody else out. Then they hand over power to the other. Number two, another fundamental question that I want to raise in the context of, say, this Ruto betrayal or whatever the case. You see, Bitok, and Wakili Steve can speak more on this. One of the genius of Kenya's constitution is a chapter called Chapter 6.
Yes, sure.
Leadership and integrity. Kenyans said we want a certain type and character of leaders in public office. If today we all keep on saying, oh, Ruto was relegated, he's been left out of government, if there was integrity in the person of William Ruto as the deputy president, knowing that I'm the one who deputizes the president of the Republic of Kenya, I've been relegated, I'm being frustrated from undertaking my functions, why hasn't Ruto resigned? To just show that integrity which Kenyans, in propagating this constitution, said this is the kind of character of leader that we want. You don't have to hang around using the same office while at the same time complaining and being relegated. I will be whatever. This is the problem we have in Kenya generally. That's why we lack proper leadership in this country. We have leaders who just want to hang on, use the same offices, even when they bring disrepute and disrespect to that office, in the language of the constitution. So really, for me, if, for example, Ruto had said, okay, you know what, they have brought in a deputy president from ODM, I've been elbowed out, I have no business staying in this government, I am resigning. Today, I'll be championing for Ruto to be the next president, because I will see a person who actually implements or enforces the aspirations of the people of Kenya through the constitution.
Kama haja resign as how?
Here's the thing. No,
he is part and parcel of the whole cartel, political cartel.
And Daktari knows this very well. I think he's decrying it. You know, we have the constitution as we know it, the formal document. Then you have the unwritten constitution, which is just the old document, which was repealed when we were enacting this new document. Yeah? The old mindset, which you have not disinherited, is about interest formation. Can I use the current offices and their benefits to propagate my agenda? Am I going to lose visibility if I resign from politics? There's the selfish agenda that has dominated our political scene since independence. Yeah, that is the continuation of that. He has already, Dr. says, let's not call it an ideology or philosophy, just a mindset. The mindset of just aggrandizing, yeah, accumulating wealth to use it in the next election, and also using public office to maintain a certain level of visibility. I think that is why DP is unable to resign. Because he doesn't want to lose the trappings of power, he doesn't want to lose the visibility, he doesn't know the kind of person who will occupy that office if he were to resign, and how that
and then there is also
would also impact on his political career. So then, because even if you resign, they're going to bring in someone who's your competitor. I think that the bottom line is this: if Kenyans want real change, we must have a clean slate, a break from the past. Everybody, the so-called big fives, represent everything we want to move away from. If you are lacking in courage and conviction to do the right thing, then also don't complain. I mean, let's negotiate a deal, Bitok. We can negotiate a deal. I mean, just have an honest, rational conversation. If Kenyans lack the courage and conviction to demand and do the right thing, then let us also at least be honest not to complain thereafter. Yeah? Because you can't be angling for change post-2022, then you bring us here in 2023 to complain about the same problems. Personally, I have made a statement of conviction. I'm not going to vote for people that do not reflect the kind of ideological disposition that I find persuasive. Yeah? Even if I'm in the minority, I'll be in the minority and expressing my will there, and knowing too well that if Ruto is the president or Raila is the president, I really have nothing to complain about because I didn't put them there. You know, those are the frailties of the majoritarian rule, yeah? But the majority should also remember that they will hurt the most. And I think what I've been concerning myself, and I've been telling some people, I think as a professional in this country, it is time I look beyond the borders of this country for employment, for opportunity. I could go and practice elsewhere. You know, if this country, nobody says that I was born here, I love Kenya, but I don't have to die here.
You don't have to die.
I don't have to tolerate, you know, inefficiency.
You can even change nationality.
I can change nationalities. You know, I don't know how many Kenyans have the kind of luxury that I may be angling for.
Someone was asking when is the next Bantu migration.
So, you know, although that would not solve the problem, would be deferring the problem to the future. But even right now, we are still deferring the problem to the future. The reason why Raila is who he is, whether he's right or wrong, I can tell you when he enters the heart of Lonyanza, Kisumu city, everybody forgets everything that he promised, which he never delivered. Even as a political leader. Because you look at him as someone whom we have sent to Nairobi to organize power, to get it and bring it back to us. When you look at the Rift Valley region, they see Ruto as someone who's hardworking, who is sent to Nairobi. Nairobi is like a huge forest where you send warriors to go and hunt, get the
Catch some wildlife.
Yeah, bring it back to it. That's a big fight. It's a competition. You know? And Mount Kenya is like, what is it? How do we protect power? I think the silent conversation which goes unattended is like, Mount Kenya is very keen. And although that is part of the problem, and I appreciate Dr. what you've said, let me just emphasize it for purpose of documenting a problem. The politics in Mount Kenya and the big five, the so-called big five, already understand it. Mount Kenya is so very keen. How do they get out of power without losing power? You get? And Ruto is trying to answer that. And he's doing a lot of grassroots mobilization. You know, the reason why he's making a lot of trips in Mount Kenya and less trips in the Rift Valley, because his support in Rift Valley is assured. The support in Nyanza is non-existent. So why bother there? What you may call as the swing state or the swing region is Mount Kenya. You get? Because there's no one who's emerging very strongly to become the presidential contender for that region, unless now they repackage someone. But I want to tell Kenyans this. If we really want change, you will have to disinherit the politics or disabuse the politics of ethnic solidarity. You really have to do that.
I want you to give us 10 minutes.
And Agawala, by the way.
Yeah.
Wakili, Daktari.
Yeah.
What is stopping you What is stopping us from having Punguza Mzigo on the referendum on the side and BBI on the... What's stopping us?
Nothing.
Instead of multiple questions, why can't we have BBI and Punguza Mzigo?
Listen, all that thought. I want to finish with that thought of why not Punguza Mzigo, because I want to discuss in the context of IEBC's behavior in the recent past. But I want us to try and make Kenyans understand two things here. Wakili Steve has used the word power. Central Kenya doesn't want to stay in power. Maybe Rift Valley wants to stay in power. Let's deconstruct that word. Whose power and who is enjoying this power? Okay? You can say the sovereign authority in this country vests in the people of Kenya by dint of Article 1. They can exercise it directly or indirectly through there. That's power unto itself. So, but when somebody is in the presidency, it does not mean the entire community or region that person comes from or is affiliated to is enjoying that power. Yeah, I don't think today an ordinary Kikuyu walking on the streets of Nairobi can stop me and tell me I have the power to stop you, EKURU AUKOT, because there's a Kikuyu in State House. Or today because the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga is actually darling, and palling with Uhuru Kenyatta. So Steve Ogolla, being of Luo descent, cannot stop me and tell me, EKURU, we are in government. Serikali ni yetu. So let's deconstruct this power. When somebody emerges from a certain region to be president or to be a prime minister, it is only that person who is supposed to enjoy that power and exercise that power for the benefit of the majority of Kenyans, not for the benefit of the majority of his people. In fact, truth be told, you'll find very powerless Kikuyus today, completely powerless, because then we have to contextualize. In what context do you discuss this power or use this power? It's in the context of making sure that Kenya is properly governed, we're putting the right law, we're enforcing the laws and all that. So, for me, it's important we deconstruct the idea of power when somebody is president. Power does not vest to everybody in that region from that tribe where that person comes from. The second issue that I want us to deconstruct here is when we say Kenyan people. I think, Wakili, I want to persuade us to go beyond this. Who is this Kenyan people? Let's deconstruct these Kenyan people. There is a people in this country who are blind followers of these political leaders. They will do anything for these political leaders. They will be assembled in the context of COVID-19. They will probably even be catching COVID-19 because there's a leader that they revere to has come to town. Like you say, Raila Amolo Odinga today steps in the shores of like Victoria or Kisumu, everything will come to a standstill. There's a certain group of people. But there is also a people in this country who are in the know, who have refused to actually come out and say, this country is being governed wrongly, we must make it right and guide the rest of the country into a certain direction. So those two things, I think for me, we really need to discuss them going forward. We may not exhaust them today. Let me come to Punguza Mzigo. Nothing has stopped Punguza Mzigo from being the alternative. I'm sure you know the problems, that I've been already in my party. There's a section of my party leadership that actually were bought by the BBI group. They went and presented by the system. They went and presented Punguza Mzigo proposals to BBI. That's why today you don't hear them even speak about Punguza Mzigo anymore, because I think they've been compromised. So what I did, Bitok, I reached out to IBC. We designed a fresh online platform to start collecting fresh signatures for Punguza Mzigo, because I'm already drafting a bill actually for 2021. I asked Chebukati Marjan Hussein to give me the data, and I requested the data formally, to give me the data of all the constituencies, because I wanted to make sure that they can be authenticated, that they are coming from the referee. I asked for all the constituencies as they are in IEBC list. I asked for all the wards as they are in IEBC, the 1450 wards. I asked for all the polling stations, about 48,000 of them, all the 297 constituencies. I got some of those, but they have refused to give me the 48,000 polling stations, because I wanted to start an online digital campaign where you can actually go digitally and sign and endorse Punguza Mzigo, so that you can say, I'm EKURU from Turkana County. This is my constituency, Turkana East. I vote in Kapedo Primary Girls, and this is my ward, Kapedo na Paytom. So that all that data will make it easy for IEBC to be able to verify the signatures that I want to collect. IEBC has refused to actually give me that information. Wow. I've also noted one thing about IEBC in the recent past. In fact, IEBC is working so hard so hard to be disbanded. Why do I say that? When we presented the Punguza Mizigo 2019 bill to IBC with 1.4 million signatures in February, if I recall, IBC published all the signatures, the supporters of Punguza Mizigo, and they asked Kenyans, you have got 1 month to verify whether you supported Punguza Mizigo or not. 1 month. Then they took another, I think, 4 months to just begin the before that, they said they didn't have money. We pushed them, say, no, but this is something you can do within your ordinary operation. Finally, they accepted. Then they took 5 months to verify the 1.4 million signatures, and they eventually said it's only 1.2 million signatures that are okay. And that's how the bill saw the light of day and went to the 47 counties. Let's compare the conduct of IBC towards BBI. When BBI proponents took their, I think, 4.4 or 5 million signatures to IBC published those signatures into a portal, and it gave Kenyans 5 days to verify whether they supported BBI or not. Then within a month, they already verified 1.14 million signatures, meaning the BBI bill now is good to go to the counties. Here we see an institution like IEBC, which I really supported and I wanted very much to be strengthened, being discriminative. It actually cowed or caved to the political persuasion of the so-called dynasties. And that today, if you are an ordinary Kenyan who actually wants to propose amendment to this constitution, you'll be treated differently. The way I have been treated by IBC, the way my party Third Way Alliance has been treated by IBC. But you can see the way they are favorably treating the proponent of BBI. And this just tells you, institutions like BBI lack the independence that we have accorded them, or they cannot practice the independence we have accorded them in the constitution. They cannot even practice their own mandate. This is the unfortunate thing about IEBC. And they don't even know actually that BBI is actually sending them home. You know, I've always favored the strengthening of constitutional institutions. Like, I will never blanketly blame IBI. I will say, who are the bad elements within IBC that have actually wronged Kenyans in the management of elections? No, yeah.
Okay. I think here's the thing, in terms of action points, and I like what Dr. Ekuru is saying, and that's actually the position that I align myself with. I think we have to debate rationally. What does the law say? How are we animating what the law says? Power reposes in an individual who has been given the mandate at the ballot. After post that mandate, Kenyans need to understand. Maybe that is what will probably help us overcome or break the chains of the bonds of ethnic slavery or patronage. Because once Kenyans understand that, yes, when an individual accesses power through the constitution,
they are not doing it on our
we expect them now to remain faithful to that mandate and to the oath of office that they took, and then to advance the interests of all Kenyans, so that it doesn't really matter who is in that office, you know. So I think that is a better, easier conversation that reassures, that provides reassurances to everyone, including those who presently feel we will be out of power. Because they understand, some is normal, they understand that we will be out of power, or we want to be out of power. You're not going to have the entire community running for office. You'll only have one person, and it's like education. I think, ultimately, looking at my training, I think my training as a lawyer benefits me more than it benefits my village.
Exactly.
I mean, how many times do I go to the village and sit with people who cheered me on when I was in London? Very few times. So when you're told that the teachers that sacrificed, to teach me and to train me from primary to the high school and now to the university, now they are still there, incubating new lawyers, perhaps, and doctors and engineers. You get. I think if we draw parallels from that, we will then be able to puncture the political narrative that this thing is community based. You get. And I think that's a better, safer, more progressive narrative, that power will be exercised to the benefit of all Kenyans. So it doesn't really matter, in essence, whether it is Ruto, Raila, or someone else. You get. The problem that now remains outstanding, and which I think we can still deepen the discussion around, the people to control the new narrative cannot be the people that are part of the problem.
Part of the old narrative.
And that's why we need fresh courage. We need fresh courage and conviction to understand the shift and then now to trust a new pair of hands to deliver on the promise of what you want.
All right. I have 10 minutes, so I'll give 5 each. If you can manage 5 for the tackle of the day. And you also, as you chime in on the tackle of the day, you'll finish. I'll start with Ogolla. The 10-minute tackle of the day, someone who had asked, now that you mentioned about the fact that people feel like maybe if my tribe made ascends to power, then we've actually collectively ascended to power. And the other people feel excluded. Somehow in the end. There's someone who had asked, there's someone who has said that the president, they say they feel like the president is being partisan because every time we're talking about facing the mountain, going to Sagana, Calvanize Central Kenya, maybe he is being seen to be more focused on one narrative. That maybe I need to galvanize my people as much as the fact that he's leaving power. So there is a part of Kenyans who are feeling like, okay, a president should be speaking about the whole country. The other day when he went to Kameme, a vernacular station, and he talked about the issue that affect Mount Kenya more specifically. How does that frame the fabric of leadership and fabric of community? I think now that you've mentioned about that.
I think that is the highest level of betrayal of the constitution and the institutions created under it. The institution of the presidency is a very, very solemn and sacred institution that should not be desecrated in the manner in which the president has done so far. I think the constant, actually at the level of conceptualization, I have no problem with the president speaking in Kikuyu or meeting Kikuyu leaders, but you need to be careful the misconception that can come around it, because if you're the president of the Republic of Kenya, elected in office, and exercising that mandate in terms of Article 131 of the Constitution, but then you are continuously appealing to a certain regional bloc. Just like I heard some leaders say the president has a village and the village is Mount Kenya, you actually exclude the rest of the country and you abandon your mandate of uniting the country. It's very serious and very unfortunate, right? Now, the second crop of leadership, those who are not in power, like the Right Honorable Prime Minister, who are not actually in formal offices, but are angry to take over those offices, do they have an alternative ideology that is consistent with the Constitution? The answer is no. Because you see also, I feel embarrassed also when you galvanize a certain voting bloc, quote unquote, the ODM wing, or the Nyanza, and say that this time round, we must take this thing. When you look at the politics that is being played in Nyanza, for instance, in Luo, it says, this thing is ours this time. And I think that is anti the Constitution because, as Dr. has said, even if Raila became president today, there is no way the presidency will be a Luo affair. By design, unless he intends to abuse that power. So if you intend to abuse the power, why should you be trusted to be the one to replace the person who is presently abusing the power?
Exactly.
And the same argument goes to DP Ruto. I think he needs to do more. Well, I feel sorry for him in one way because he mobilized votes for Uhuru Kenyatta, and Mutai Ngunya told us it was just the tyrant of numbers. It was an easy mobilization. Bring my ethnic community, bring your ethnic community, let's patch up, let's give you the victory. Without which Uhuru would not have been president. Now he feels increasingly being aged out, and now he's reacting to the present political reality, which means the present political reality is to exclude him. But the way he's reacting is not also inspiring the kind of confidence that will establish the trust in those offices and the institutions created by the Constitution if he takes power. I think the time is too short, less than 20 months to election, and looking at already the undergirding, let's just the thought. I'm not having a problem characterizing the current thought. I really want Kenyans to know. Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi will not transform this country because of their present position that they are publicly accommodated. Ruto, Uhuru, Kalonzo, Raila, Mudavadi, and even Wetangula are all co-opted into one agenda, getting power for themselves, and not really serving the people. We have to be brave and initiate urgent change. I like the idea of consolidating the support, Kongamano la Mageuzi, and Linda Katiba, Punguza Mzigo. I think we can find alternative voices there. But you know what, Kenyans, the problem, once you tell them, once you point them there, I tell them, no, but then choose. If you are being presented with alternatives and you don't want to pick them, then also just, give us a break and don't complain when things go wrong. They're going wrong. But right now, government is organized at the ballot. There's a real chance that in the 20 months to 19 months to go, you can actually, on your way to Damascus, you can see the light turn and go differently.
What if you're already blind? You know,
you
can feel the light.
Can we trust?
You feel the heat.
Can we trust that in the coming period? The Ekuru said very well that let's not pontificate forever, yeah?
Yes.
Ad infinitum, yeah? Pontificating, analyzing. Let's just get into it and provide the alternative voices so that when Kenyans who are looking for real choices, I refuse and I still reject. I don't think, my view always is I can support Ruto and Raila Odinga on if we are aligned on a particular issue by issue. You get?
Moja kwa moja.
There is no instance where Raila Odinga has my unqualified support. And right now, I don't think he has my support. William Ruto, I don't think he has my unqualified support. I have to estimate what is he talking about, you know. But the totality of it is that I would rather go with someone who is fresh, so that then we trust someone whom we can hold to account. You cannot hold BP Ruto and Raila Odinga into account if they are in government, because the history speaks for itself. So if they access power, you can be sure they won't access that power to your benefit.
That's true.
So you get, I think, work with that. Work with that. Get an alternative, someone who has a stable and known philosophy, someone who can advance the constitution. Let us pick it. The Kivuta Kibwanas, EKURU AUKOT is here, has very detailed understanding of the constitution, whose only weakness now is he lacks the ethnic majority. You know, people say, but what can you consolidate? Do you have 5 million votes? If you want to analyze good candidates based on their backyard, and when the constitution talks about analyzing them based on their ideology and how close they have the constitution, then this country will be stranded at the margins of time and will never see the kind of change the constitution hoped to inspire.
All right. Ekuru?
So for me, I would say that as part of my talk of the day, first of all, I think Kenyans are dealing with many problems right now. So many problems. Problems related, for example, even to the impacts of COVID-19. We need to think about solutions to those problems. It's about revamping the economy, the state of our health, education, and all the things that actually make us to live a humane life as Kenyans. Unfortunately, today in Kenya, the politics of succeeding President Uhuru are taking center stage at the expense of many other important issues. That is very unfortunate. And unfortunately, again, it's the Kenyans who are actually the pawns in this game. The political class who actually want to succeed President Uhuru do not really care. It's about their own personal interest. While the issues that actually concern you, such as, for example, huge unemployment at 70% among the youth, is being relegated. So I wish majority of Kenyans could sober up and actually look at those problems and even say, what kind of leadership today in Kenya is talking about those priority areas? And the reason for me I bring these issues because, like Wakili Ogolla said, the people we are discussing around about our country today, even if they got into power today, they will not perform any miracles. Just like we are talking about Uhuru owes Ruto a debt. There is no magic. I do not see any magic in Ruto that will now transform this country in 2022 just because he's president, because he's been part and parcel of the failures of Jubilee administration. And he has not spoken about it. He has not disputed. He has not said to Kenyans that, yes, we lied to you from 2013 that we will do, ABC will produce, I don't know how many jobs. Is it 3 million, 1.5 million jobs every year? They have not accounted for that. Secondly, we are dealing in this country with the problem of non-accountability. Leaders will get into power, they will say whatever they want to say, nobody calls them into account. We have accepted that, we have normalized that, which is why, for example, even the President of the Republic of Kenya will say, people are stealing, and he used those words, people are stealing 2 billion every day in this country. This is a president who commands all the authority in this country. He has at his disposal the Director of Criminal Investigation, the police, the NIS, the National Intelligence Service. So he should be able to tell Kenyans, who is this thief who is stealing our 2 billion every day? When the president says that, honestly, do we even have a presidency to begin with? Do we have a leadership? And that's why, for me, the question of accountability is thrown through the window. The president will say, there's nothing I can do. He will still hold on to office because it's about personal interest. And lastly, as I finish, the reason we are talking about the failed leadership in Kenya, BTOC, is because the kind of leaders we have had over the years, for the last 50 years, have failed to do one simple thing that's even traditional among us Africans: the question of succession leadership. You see, even in traditional Africa, when the Wazees get tired or reach a certain age, they will allow the young and vibrant to take over the reins of power. They'll go and sit under the tree and become the wise men. That young will go to them and say, okay, Wazee, we are dealing with this particular issue. How do we go about it? And they will impart wisdom on the young that will now take care of society. What we are dealing with in this country, the reason we are regurgitating, talking about same individual who have now joined the Kenya wildlife to become the big five, is because they think Kenya is them and they are Kenya. And they never encourage any succession, even among them. They will not even allow their own children until maybe death happens. That's when people talk about succession politics. Tuone mtoto wa fulani huruma because babake amefariki. But in their living stage, they will never say, okay, how do I groom Steve Ogolla to succeed me because I can see a bright young man in Steve Ogolla? How do I groom BTOC? So we are failing. That's why leadership in this country is failing. There is no succession, and we are not injecting, young, fresh thoughts. The world over, younger people are taking over, and people are actually encouraging young people because of longevity of life, you are likely to do the best thing for society so that we can live in a better society than when you have got all these octogenarians hanging on to power, even without any ideological issues, but just political mobilization and tribal mobilization. And that's why they hinge onto the idea of mobilizing tribe, mobilizing my region. And they actually fail in that context alone of mobilizing my tribe as a block on my region. They already fail as leaders, because then you are isolating other tribes and other regions in a country of 44 tribes. I think Kenyans need to think outside the box this time. And like I say, nothing personal against these individuals. I think we should relegate them because they are part and parcel of the problems we have had gone through this country.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. Until another session of Sheria Wiki, that's on Friday. I hope to see you again. Barak Muluka, please. Okay, apologies here, Barak Muluka. Alikuwa ameshika mali, is gone for a burial over the weekend. So, amekuwa na mambo during the week. He's been having... Amekuwa na mambo. Adelete wadade. Manyuria. Thank you, Steve. Congratulations once again for that part you've taken. And my good friend here, we'll stand with you. This country, you're going to change it at a time. One at a time. A conversation at a time. So ukumbuke ya kwamba Ogolla, leo siku ni yako. Wewe ni kutubatiza, unatupeleka communion. Or you're unholy. Communion. For the class who have joined us, Abbas Njuguna says a point of correction, EKURU leaders force themselves into power. Our votes don't really matter. Max Kibele, root us on to the Jubilee failure and advise Raila to do the same. EKURU, you seem to have been on vacation. Alright, I'm saying also, kuna mtu hapa ni spiritual, hakuja ombe Kenya. As a spiritual man who helps people what they need. We need good leadership.
Where have I been on vacation?
Wanje Gidingi says, when do we call? Mungala Mwanyenchi in Anzanga 9 sharp, so we've already closed the Bungala Mwanyenchi. Evans Gidai, the discussion today is deep, very articulate panelist. Kudos. Asante sana. Thank you so much, the tacklers who have been joining in for the more than 2 hours, 3 hours past 2 hours, 3 minutes past 2 hours. Really appreciate that you spend time with us. We hope you're going to enjoy your weekend and take care. We love you, and we hope that you're going to join us again on Monday. Keep sharing this broadcast even after we're done. Go to YouTube, look for Gerald BTOC, Twitter, #TheTackle, Gerald BTOC. Keep sharing our broadcast and also keep sharing that the articles that we do. Also go to our website, continentaltv.co.ke. Kuna news na habari ziko pale, uweze kushare pia so that you can continue informing the citizenry. We want to tell you that all the nations have been changed by conversations. Be part of these conversations. Let's build a bigger family. Until Monday, take care. We love you. Bye-bye.